Hello there everyone, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns and today I'm going to show you how to make this Rosebud wirework necklace. And this is the one that I've made here. So you can see we have all these rosebuds across the middle part of the necklace. It's the main feature, and they're all kind of graduating in size here. So from the outer ones, I've done smaller ones by using smaller beads and then graduating to the middle, which are the larger pieces, to get this nice effect on the neckline. And then I've just finished it off with wrap loops so I could then attach my finding, so my chain and my clasp. Obviously you can attach whatever kind of chain and clasp that you want to, but then this is the main feature. So I've previously made both a bracelet and earrings, and this is what they look like. So I have the bracelet here and then I have the earrings. So you can see it all matches nicely using the same technique as well. It's just using different materials to get that different effect and finish them off in a different way. So you could easily make a whole set if you want to, and obviously kind of use same or similar materials to make them match. But if you want to learn how to make the necklace, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. First of all, here I have my two different gauges of regular round silver coated copper wire. The first one is a 1mm. So this is going to be the base wire, you could say, so it'll be the strength of the piece. And then here I have a 0.8mm, and this is going to be the wire that I'm twisting and creating the roses with. And then I have three different sizes of round beads here. Now the first ones are the largest. These are 8mm rounds and I have 3 of them. The next one down here, these are 6mm rounds and I have 4 of them. And then for the smallest ones, these are 4mm rounds and I also have 4 of them. And then all you gotta make sure of, regardless what beads you're using, is that the holes are large enough to take a length of the 1mm thickness wire through. Now the specific beads that I'm using are some purple coated hematite gemstone rounds. They also tend to be very generous with the holes, so I know these are all going to fit onto that wire. And then we really just need something to finish off our necklace with, so I'm just using this chain here for the sides. You can really use whatever kind of chain or anything else that you want to. And then I have my finding, so I'm just using a lobster claw clasp and extended chain and attaching it all together with the jump rings. So let's get it all together and let's get started. And then as for the lengths of wires that we'll need to work with, what I have here first of all is the length of my 1mm of about 30 centimeters. So this is going to be the base wire that's going to carry the beads. And then we'll need a length of our twisted wire. Now we need approximately 1 meter and 20 centimeters. So if you have pre-twisted wire, obviously just cut that. But if you need to twist your own, then what I've done is I've taken about 2.5 meters and I've folded that in half and then I've twisted those two ends together. So you'll get approximately this length, not precisely, because it also depends on how tight you want to twist it. So first of all, then I take my length of my 1mm here, so the base wire, and towards one end I just want to put a little bit of a bend in, just to kind of stop the beads from falling off, about 5 centimeters in or so, because we're just going to need that tail to finish off the actual piece with at the end. But then what we need to do is then take the length of the twisted wire and I'm placing that underneath, and we just first of all need to attach this. Again, I'm leaving a few centimeters of a tail behind. We can just work up a little bit further up if we need to keep hold of it, because we again need to just use that to finish this end of the twisted wire off nicely. And then all we need to do is wrap this around the base wire. So like this basically. It's now attached, but I just want to wrap it around again. And make sure that the wraps here are nice and close together. And there we go. If your base wire goes a little bit out of shape, don't worry too much about it. You can just kind of straighten it back out. And then we have the twisted wire now attached to the base wire. And then I just want to move it down a little bit, down to that kind of bend there. I'm going to smooth my base wire out again if you need to. Just use your fingers. And then we need to also start adding in our very first bead. So the first one I'm going to grab is one of my little ones, so my 4mm rounds. And I'm just going to put that onto my base wire from the open end, you could say. Just need to find the hole. There we go. And then push it all the way down. So the bead ends up sitting right there next to the two wraps that I did to attach the weaving, or the twisted wire rather. Then we need to start making the very first rows. Now obviously we're starting out with a small bead here. We have the twisted wire coming from underneath and towards the bottom here below us. Then what I want to start doing is basically coming around the bead. So I like to put my finger, my thumb, and my index finger on to the bead from either side, and then start bringing the twisted wire around, as you can see there, kind of around one side of the bead. And then I keep my thumb on top of it, of the bead there, as I kind of twist it around. Now I prefer to move my piece around with the bead, I find that a bit easier, but you could also just bring the twisted wire around, it's completely up to you. The goal is to literally just get it around the bead here, but keeping it around the sides of the bead so we can still see the bead coming through. And that's why I keep my thumb on it. Bring it around again. Now if your base wire goes a little bit out of shape while you're doing this, just keep putting it back into shape. Just bring it around the top of the wraps that you did to attach it. And then now you can see we have a full circle pretty much. It looks like that. So what I want to do is now go around one more time, just to give it a little bit more of that look of a rose with that bead in the middle. So just keep moving your piece while you're bringing the twisted wire around the bead there. And now again I'm keeping my finger on top of it, so I make sure that this round then lays on the outside of the first one. So basically it's getting wider. You can see that we're building on the outside until we come back and we now have 2 full rounds. And then it looks a little something like that. Then we need to bring the twisted wire over to the opposite side of the bead to where it came from. And then bring it around the side, but then have it go underneath the wraps that we did around the bead there. So like that. And then all we need to do is wrap it around the base wire. So you can see that also kind of just finishes this one off. So you just wrap it around in the exact same way as when we attached it. And then that's going to kind of get a little bit hidden underneath the circles there around the bead. So wrap it around, and then we have the twisted wire coming out towards the bottom. And then basically it's ready straight away for the next one. Now to get the spacing right, I just want to do one more wrap, because what you want to imagine is that this wrap here we just did is basically lying underneath the rows that we just did, but the next one here is going to lie underneath the next one, but on the opposite side. So on the first side here, basically the same as the ones we did when we attached the wire. So I've just done that extra wrap. Make sure your wraps are as close and tight together as possible as well, to make it nice and seamless. Then I want to grab my next bead. So again, that's also a 4mm round that I'm using. Add that to the open end of my wire, and then just feed it all the way down. You can see that now sits there, same as before. And then we just want to do this one more time. So you just bring the twisted wire around the side of the bead, and while continuing to hold your finger on top of the bead, so the twisted wire here just goes along around the side of it. So again, we'll build this next rows. Just bring it around. And then once you've done a full circle like that, you just bring it around again to do the next one out. And then you can see that's going to end up sitting right next to the first one, because we got that spacing right with the amount of wraps we did underneath them. And then once you've got the 2 full ones, we go around to the opposite side here of the bead, and then we need to wrap the twisted wire around the base wire. So I'll push it down underneath the circles there, and then just wrap it around the base wire to then get it into position for the next one. And now the next bead that I'm going to add in is going to be the 6mm one, so the medium bead you could say, because I want this graduation effect of, you could call it, the different size roses. So this is just the technique of it, so you just want to keep doing this until you've added all the beads and you reach the other end. So now I continued adding my beads. You can see here the order that I've done it in. I added 2 4mm, then I've added 2 6mm, then my 3 8mm in the middle, then I've gone the opposite direction and added the 2 6mm and then the last 2 4mm. So you can see you get this graduation effect with the small beads on the outside and those largest ones right there in the middle. So that's obviously going to help hang nicely on the neckline. So then now to finish off the twisted wire here, I'm just going to show you on one end. So this is where I finished off. Then I just want to bring it around so it ends up coming over the top of the base wire there. So just like that, and then this is just going kind of away from me, the way I'm holding it. Then we need to cut off the excess. So we want to cut it off so we get the length we need for the size rose that we want to make, because I'm going to use this last little length to make another little rose, but obviously just without a bead, just to finish it off nicely. Now how long you make it will determine how large it's going to be. I like to cut it so I have about a couple centimeters. Something like that there. A short little tail, but enough to kind of make a rose. So I'm going to take my chain nose pliers here and grab onto the end. Now because this is twisted wire, it will kind of split a bit on the end. But just kind of grab hold the best you can. And then I want to start bringing it in. Grab both ends there. So kind of twisting it in towards itself. And then gradually I can kind of grab it further in so it won't split anymore, and the ends are going to be tucked in there into the middle. And then it's also really up to you how tight you want the middle to be here. I'm just going to keep bringing it around until it comes all the way in and sits over the top of those wraps there. And obviously just want to kind of flatten it down so it ends up sitting right next to the very last one. You can see it just adds a bit to that graduation again. So that's how to finish off the twisted wiring nicely, and also so those ends get hidden inside the very middle of that very last rose there. Obviously go to the other end and do the exact same thing with that end there. And then once you've done that on both ends, all that's left to do really is finish off the base wire there, and all I'm going to do with that is make a wrap loop on either end. So I'm just going to take my chain nose here and put it to the side, and then put a bend into the wire like that. Then I'm going to take my 6 bow making pliers here. So you can use round nose pliers. I just like using these so I know I get the same size loop every time. I use the same size on the mandrel or the pliers. And then I'm going to use the second smallest one actually. Place that on top of the bend and then bring the tail around and move your pliers around if you need to. So we basically get a full circle like that. And then I take my chain nose pliers or flat nose and grab onto the circle, and then I use the tail here to wrap around that little space of, you could say, bare wire underneath the circle. So between the circle and that last rose, just wrap this around until you don't have any more space. So basically fill it in, and then when you've done that, just check it all the way around. Then I want to cut off the excess, so make sure that the wraps are nice and tight there. Then I kind of like to cut it off a bit more towards the front because that will then be covered. The end of that wire will be covered by that rose. So it's coming around the front there, and then I'm going to cut off the excess so I can get my pliers in there. Like that. And then of course take your chain nose or flat nose and just make sure to squeeze down that end. So regardless where it is, it doesn't stick out and catch or scratch on anything. And that's how you finish off the other end as well. So now I finish off both ends there and I have my loops. Now all this has to do really is shape it. So you might find that you have a bit of a curve already. So if you do, just keep working with that. And then if you don't, obviously just put a curve in there. But you just want to kind of get the curve to the point where you want it to be, so how it's going to hang on your neckline. So you just curve a bit more if you want to, until you're happy with it, or something a bit like this. Again, you can see you get the nice graduation with the larger beads in the middle. And then gradually going out to the smaller ones and obviously finishing on those loops. Now all I'm going to do to finish off completely and use these loops for is to attach my chain, and then obviously my clasp as well at the back. So just attach whatever kind of chain and clasp that you want to, and then your necklace will be done. So now I've attached my chain and also my clasp on the ends there, and then this is what my finished necklace looks like. So we have this nice feature in the middle with all the roses in graduated sizes, and obviously those beads in the middle that really add a nice pop of colour to it. So it's quite a simple and easy technique to do, and also fairly quick to make, and you can make the whole set as well if you like to. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please feel free to check out other ones on my channel, and also check me out on Instagram. I post there as often as I can, so I would also love to see anything that you make. On Instagram you can always tag me. Otherwise, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.